The anti-China onslaught in the US doesn't seem to be having the desired effect on its younger population. A recent survey by The Economist and YouGov reveals that younger Americans are friendlier to China than their older counterparts. Nearly a quarter of Americans aged 18 to 44 view China as friendly. Only 4% of Americans above the age of 45 view China this way. The report comes amid the US efforts to ban TikTok, a video app that has become a craze among American youth in recent years. At the congressional hearing of TikTok CEO Shou Chu, US lawmakers couldn't hide their racism and xenophobia. We have with us American youth, peace, and anti-war activist Calla Walsh, who's here to talk about how a large number of American youths are contesting the anti-China narrative within the US. Do you consider China to be a friendly nation or an enemy of the United States?
My answer is very straightforward. China is not our enemy, and I'm among the substantial group of young people in the US that sees China as a friend. And I see China not only as a friend, but as a global leader that is really paving the way to a more peaceful and multipolar world where all countries have a right to sovereignty, instead of living under the yoke of the United States. I think young people can see through these warmongering lies that the US is spreading about China. And we can also see China's actually delivering on the issues we care about. For example, climate. Biden is signing off on the Willow Project. He's breaking his campaign promises to stop new drilling on federal land, while China's leading the world in reducing carbon emissions, building green infrastructure. So it's very easy to tell China is a progressive force and the US is extremely regressive.
Does the poll indicate that we are witnessing a slow but gradual generational change in perception about China?
I think there is a slow generational shift in how we regard China and how we regard US imperialism as a whole. We are not the generation of the first Cold War against the Soviet Union. I think our generation has been much more shaped by social movements that have really made us more skeptical of the US government narrative on things. We're the generation of these mass mobilizations against climate change, against gun violence, against racism and police brutality. And young people are becoming more civically engaged, having record-breaking voter turnout. And I think we're much more skeptical of the US government because of the failures on those issues I just mentioned.
How do you see the ongoing targeting of TikTok? How will the congressional hearing of the TikTok CEO affect the view of its user base?
The ongoing targeting of TikTok is very much a xenophobic and Red Scare tactic. And just when I've logged on to TikTok in the past few days, I've seen lots of popular accounts, ones that are even apolitical, that are calling this hearing a witch hunt. They're mocking US Congress members for not even understanding how the internet works. So it's really putting into light how ridiculous this anti-China propaganda is. And I think that'll make the entire user base, which is hundreds of millions of people, even more skeptical of the US government narrative on TikTok and on China as a whole. And, of course, the US government literally mass spies on its own citizens. So we know this isn't about privacy at all. And other US social media companies like Meta engage in very harmful data sharing practices. So what we should be talking about is why the US really is doing this. And that's because of the economic competition that China poses.